The sun dipped low, painting the pines in hues of amber and gold, their long shadows stretching across the gravel road that wound through our secluded cabin community. Nestled in the heart of the Blue Ridge Mountains, this place was supposed to be our escape, a quiet retreat from the chaos of the city. My wife, Leila, was out front, crouched by the gate that marked the entrance to our property. The old iron thing had been sticking for weeks, creaking and groaning every time we tried to open it. Leila, never one to let a problem fester, had her toolbox open, a wrench in one hand and a can of WD-40 in the other. Her dark braid swung as she worked, her focus unbroken even as the evening chill settled in. She was muttering to herself, something about damn rust, when a sharp, grating voice sliced through the calm. "You, what do you think you're doing?" It was Margaret, the host's self-appointed queen, storming across the road like a one-woman cavalry. Her floral cardigan flapped in the breeze, and her phone was already pressed to her ear, her free hand waving dramatically. "This is private property. You can't just tamper with community assets." Leila didn't even look up. She sprayed the hinge, gave the bolt a quick turn, and said, "It's our gate, Margaret." "I'm fixing it." Margaret's eyes narrowed to slits, her lips pursing like she'd just bitten into a lemon. "Your gate?" "I don't think so. I know every inch of this community, and that gate belongs to the home." She jabbed a finger toward Leila, her voice rising. "I'm calling the police. You're vandalizing community property." Leila finally glanced up, her hazel eyes glinting with amusement. "Go ahead, Margaret. Call whoever you want. It's our land, our gate. Check the records." Margaret scoffed, already dialing 911. "This is Margaret Hensley, president of the Pine Hollow HOA." She barked into the phone. "I've got a woman vandalizing a community gate. She's got tools, tearing it apart. You need to send someone now." Her voice was pure theater, each word dripping with righteous indignation. She paced in tight circles, shooting glares at Leila, who just kept working, unfazed. I stepped onto the porch, leaning against the railing with a mug of coffee in hand. Leila caught my eye and smirked, her hand steady as she tightened another bolt. Margaret, oblivious to the futility of her crusade, kept up her tirade. "These people think they can just move in and do whatever they want. Outsiders. No respect for the rules. Outsiders." That was Rich. Leila and I had bought his cabin a year ago, along with a good chunk of the surrounding land, but we'd kept a low profile. Most folks here thought we were just another couple looking for a weekend getaway. We liked it that way. I kept things simple, but Margaret, with her clipboard and her endless list of HOA regulations, was about to get a reality check. 10 minutes later, a sheriff's cruiser rolled up, its lights flashing lazily against the darkening trees. Deputy Harris, a lanky guy with a weathered face and a no-nonsense demeanor, climbed out. He looked more annoyed than alarmed, probably wishing he was home with a beer instead of dealing with Margaret's latest meltdown. He tipped his hat to Leila, who was wiping grease off her hands with a rag. "Evening, ma'am. Got a call about vandalism." Margaret didn't give Leila a chance to respond. She rushed forward, nearly tripping over a loose stone. "Arrest her. She's destroying community property." "Look at her. She's got tools and everything." Harris raised an eyebrow, taking in the scene. Leila, calm as ever, standing by a gate that now swung smoothly on its hinges. He glanced at the gate, then back at Leila. "This your place?" Leila nodded, tossing the rag into her toolbox. "Bought it last year. Gates on our land. Check the deed if you want." Margaret's face turned a shade redder. "They're lying. They're just renters, probably squatters. I've never seen proof they own anything." Harris sighed, pulling out a tablet from his cruiser. He taped the screen a few times, scrolling through counter records. Margaret stood there, arms crossed, her expression smug as she waited for her victory. But then Harris's eyes widened slightly, and a low chuckle escaped his lips. He turned to Margaret, his voice calm but pointed. "Ma'am, you might want to take a step back. This is their property. And, you might not know who you're dealing with." Margaret blinked, her confidence wavering. "What are you talking about?" Harris leaned closer, lowering his voice like he was sharing a secret. "These folks, they're the ones who own half the mountain, including the land or cabin zone." Margaret's phone nearly slipped from her hand, her mouth frozen in a half-open gasp. "Leila and I had been careful about our privacy since moving here. We'd used the trust to buy the cabin and several hundred acres around it. including most of the lots in Pine Hollow. We weren't just homeowners, so we were the landlords of the entire community, including Margaret's precious half-acre, her Lorraine, her endless meetings about mailbox colors and hedge heights. All of it was happening on our property. Harris tucked his tablet under his arm, giving Leela a respectful nod. "Everything checks out. No vandalism here, ma'am," he said, turning to Margaret. "Maybe don't call us unless it's a real emergency." Margaret stood there, rooted to the spot, her usual bluster gone. Leela closed her toolbox with the satisfying snap and grinned at me. "Gates fixed. Told you I'd get it done," I laughed, stepping off the porch to join her. "Margaret, you might want to check your whole bylaws again," I said, unable to resist. "We'll be at the next meeting. Got some new rules to propose." Her eyes widened, and she turned, shuffling back to her cabin without another word, her cardigan flapping like a defeated flag. Harris tipped his hat one last time and drove off, leaving the road quiet except for the soft rustle of the pines. Leela leaned against the gate, testing its swing. "Smooth as butter," she said, winking at me. "Think she'll behave now?" "Doubt it," I replied, pulling her close as the stars began to peek through the twilight. "But she's in for a hell of a surprise." The next week was a masterclass in small-town drama. Word spread fast in Pine Hollow, and by the time the home meeting rolled around, Margaret's 911 call was the talk of every porch and gravel driveway. Neighbors whispered about the new couple who turned out to be more than they seemed. Some thought it was hilarious, others were wary, wondering what else we'd been keeping under wraps. Leela and I didn't care much for the gossip. We just wanted to live our lives, fix our gate, and maybe grill some burgers without Margaret breathing down our necks. The meeting was held in the community center, a squat log building with mismatched chairs and a coffee maker that smelled like it hadn't been cleaned since the Reagan administration. Margaret sat at the head of the folding table, her usual throne, but her posture was different, all stiff, like she was bracing for a storm. The other homeowners filed in, about a dozen in all, clutching their agendas and casting curious glances our way. Leela and I took seats near the back, sipping burnt coffee from styrofoam cups. I could feel the room's energy shift when we walked in, like we were the main event. Margaret cleared her throat, banging a tiny gavel that looked like it belonged in a dollhouse. "Order. Let's begin. First item. Mailbox uniformity. I've noticed some non-compliant colors actually," Leela interrupted, her voice calm but firm. "I'd like to discuss something else first." She stood, pulling a folder from her bag. The room went silent, all eyes on her. Margaret's grip on the gavel tightened, her knuckles white. Leela opened the folder and slid a stack of documents across the table. "These are the property records for Pine Hollow. You'll notice that my husband and I, through our trust, own the majority of the land here, including the roads, the common areas, and most of your lots." She paused, letting that sink in. A few people shifted uncomfortably in their chairs. "That means the HOA operates under our permission, and we've got some concerns about how it's being run." Margaret's face was a mask of barely contained panic. "This is absurd. You can't just waltz in and we can," I cut in, standing beside Leela. "And we've been reviewing the HOA's finances and rules. Seems like there's been a lot of broken bar overreach. Fines for things like unauthorized flower beds, fees for road maintenance we've been paying for." "That stops now." The room erupted in murmurs. Old Mr. Jenkins, who'd been fighting Margaret over his rose bushes for years, let out a whoop. "About damn time," he said, slapping his knee. Others looked less thrilled, especially Margaret's loyalists, who'd been sipping her Kool-Aid for years. Leela laid out our plan, a new HOA board, elected by the homeowners, with clear limits on its power. No more fines for trivial nonsense. No more gatekeeping community decisions. And, most importantly, transparency about the land ownership. "We're not here to lord it over anyone," Leela said, her voice steady. "We just want to live here like the rest of you. But we're done with the petty tyranny." Margaret tried to rally, her voice shrill. "This is my community. I've kept it pristine for years. You can't just actually." "Margaret," I said, holding up a copy of the trust's lease agreements, "we can. Your cabin's on our land. You've got a lease, same as everyone else. Break it, and we can evict you." The room went dead silent. Margaret's mouth opened, then closed. Like a fish gasping for air, she sank back into her chair, her gavel forgotten. Mr. Jenkins started clapping, and soon half the room joined in. Leela caught my eye, her lips twitching into a smile. The meeting wrapped up quickly after that. A new board was nominated, with Mr. Jenkins volunteering to lead it. Margaret didn't say another word, just gathered her papers and slipped out the door, her cardigan trailing behind her like a wilted flower. As we walked back to our cabin under a sky full of stars, Leela laced her fingers through mine. "Think she'll move out?" she asked, half joking. "Nah," I said, squeezing her hand. "But she'll think twice before calling 911 again." The gate swung open smoothly as we reached it, not a creak to be heard. Leela grinned, giving it a playful nudge. "Told you I'd fix it." "And you did," I said, pulling her close. The pines whispered around us, the mountain air cool and crisp. For the first time since we'd moved here, Pine Hollow felt like home.